welcome back to another episode of CMC Conversations. I am here with two people from the BC churches, which I don't think us in Manitoba necessarily have an understanding of who they are. And so I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to Dwayne Easton and Joe Wiebe. Let me pray, and then we'll get started. Dear Lord, I thank you for another day, another opportunity we have to worship you. And I pray that this conversation is a blessing to whoever hears it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So please tell me who you are and what your role is in your prospective church and which church that is.
So my name is Dwayne Easton, and I'm the pastor at the Fort St. John Evangelical Mission Church, and I've been here for about 2.5 years now.
My name is Joe Wiebe, and I'm from the Presbytery Church. I'm a deacon in the church. Currently, I guess the only ministerial left in the church. Have been a deacon in our church since 2006.
So give me a bit of an understanding of your story within the CMC, or how you ended up in the CMC. I know there are two very different stories, but both of you have made, I would say, a noticeable impact in the CMC. Joe, you've been here a lot longer than I shouldn't say a lot longer in an insulting term. I just mean that in
it's okay.
I mean that in a positive sense. I think you've been in the CMC and you've been dedicated to the people and to worship and to God primarily. So I just want to get an understanding of both of your testimonies in regards to ministry and how you ended up in ministry in the CMC in particular.
I was actually born and raised in Eastern Ontario, and very thankful to have been brought up in a godly home and seen what it meant to be involved in the local church, and especially in modeled that from my dad. And so I was always involved in church in some way or another even from a very early age. I remember that when I was in grade 4, our Sunday school superintendent asked if I would tell a Bible story to the kids during our Sunday school opening. So he said that he had a ventriloquist doll if I wanted to use it. So I remember that that was my earliest public ministry. Me and the other dummy got up in front of the Sunday school kids, and I told the story of Jonah. And so I think that's where things maybe not got started, but I was very appreciative of the people in our church growing up, starting with the Sunday school teachers and Sunday school superintendents. They would quite often take 6 or 7 kids from our church and go out into one of the rural churches in the area for a Sunday evening service, and we would sing a couple songs or say some Bible verses, and so that was in the early years of Sunday school. And then as I got a little bit older, I was involved in or they asked me to lead singing, and then do a message at prayer meeting, and then after going to Bible school, having opportunities to do Sunday morning pulpit ministry and so on. And so I really appreciate the support that I received in church growing up, and just the doctrine and theology, just solid biblical foundation that I had from that church. I went to Bible school in 2 different Bible schools. I took a 1-year Bible certificate program in the city not too far from where I grew up, and then I transferred into a second year of a 4-year program in Iowa. I met my wife there during the first year that I was there, and she was finishing up, and so we overlapped by 1 year. she was living in Southern California, and she went home after my first year there, and I went back for another year. And after I tried cramming 4 years into 3, and just about made it. And still have 1 or 2 courses that I'm working on to finish that up all these years later. But we got married, and we moved back to my hometown, and worked for my dad for a couple of years. And then we went back to where I was in Bible school for a couple of years, and then moved back home again to work with my dad. But spent a lot of time in doing lay ministry up until about 10 years ago. And then I had the opportunity to go into full-time ministry. And again, it was really through a lot of encouragement in the leadership in the church that we had been attending, just having opportunities to preach on Sunday morning and to lead Sunday school, and just for their encouragement in my life, just seeking to go into full-time ministry. And so we were in full-time ministry and in a pastoral role south of Swift Current, Saskatchewan, for about 3.5 years. And then I went back into the workforce, and worked in agricultural equipment manufacturing for a couple of years. And then we had the opportunity to come to Fort St. John, and that was just an amazing story, that how the Lord brought us here. And we'd been looking for another opportunity to enter into pastoral ministry, and a man by the name of Peter Entz had connected us with the leadership in the church here, and through the course of conversations, and when we first found out where Fort St. John was, we decided that we didn't want to pursue that, and but then God brought us into conversation with the leadership here, and we began ministering in October of 2019, and it's just been such a blessing for us to be here, and the people are love of the congregation here, and the encouragement, and the people here are just fantastic to serve alongside of. So,
time and time again, the consistent theme seems to be that you start simply being faithful, bringing a puppet on stage, and then that always seems to lead to the next thing. And it makes you wonder how, if you ask yourself, how do we keep young people interested in church? You involve them. I think that's the simplest thing, is if you open the door to them being involved and they step through, even if it's a simple thing. I started overhead projections. I sat up front, moved the screen up and down, but that simple involvement helped me to buy into the idea of church.
Yeah, you might have to do another whole episode explaining what an overhead projector is.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's so true. The
old technology.
Yeah, when we involve even the kids in the congregation, it's an expression of our value of them, and that the church isn't just about old people. The church is about a family, and so we're all needed in order to make it work. So.
Yeah,
I joined CMC, became a member in our CMC church in the year 2000. So okay. It's been we're 21 years now, I guess, or getting on to 21 years that I've been part of the CMC. I grew up in the area. I was born in Fort St. John, lived in Presby all my life. That's where I grew up, in a home where we were taught hard work. My parents both were part of the old colony church in our area. We were definitely taught about God, a creator God that created things. Maybe the understanding of being a born again believer wasn't understood even by my parents at that time, and so it definitely wasn't understood by me. Growing up, I've been logging in the logging industry since I was 15 years old. I quit school early. Thought I was going to do it big in the workforce, and I've been in the logging industry since then. It's been good. had many good years of doing that. Still currently doing that. I'm owner operator of a log truck, so that is my current occupation outside the church. Growing up, I had a my vision was always that I was going to do things my way. I still have to. I still struggle with that to this day, where I feel that I can do things on my own, and struggling with having taking help from others. It's something that I've always struggled. I always had this. I could do things my own way, and a lot of my youth through the teens, early 20s, I lived a hard life. I wasn't always an easy life for me. I got into stuff that I shouldn't ever get into, but so yeah, there was a lot of hard life for many years for me. In 1998, I crashed my log truck in the Pine Pass, and maybe that was in 97. My years are, it's a long time ago. So whatever, I think it was 97 that I crashed that truck, and God used that to shake me up. And I all of a sudden realized that I couldn't do it on my own. There was a bigger force out there, very muchly so. And right around that time, just shortly after that accident, I met my wife to be. She was obviously not my wife at that time, but and she was part of the CMC Church in Presbyterian. She was a member there, and as we started to get to know one another, we more and more. She definitely felt that I needed, or I was not a born again believer at that time, and she was, and it was causing some issues. And I remember very distinctively one Saturday night, Marie asked me if I would come to church with her that Sunday morning, the following morning. I'm not sure who was more surprised, if it was myself or Marie, when I said yes, I would. And so the next morning I picked her up and we went to church, and my life took a very dramatic change for the better. And after that Sunday, and so we started attending that church very regularly every Sunday. And there wasn't very many weekends after that I gave my life to the Lord, and yeah, things took a very dramatic change in my life. I got baptized as a member into the church in June of 2000, and in July 1st we were married. I've always been the one too that if I do something I do it. I jump in all the way. And so when I became a member and became a part of the CMC conference, I became involved. I went to meetings, and I wanted to understand. I wanted to see what it was all about. And so I became very involved, and I went out to Manitoba and for several years in a row, just to the delegate meetings and stuff, and became involved with the missions board. And 2006, the delegate meetings were actually in Presbyterian, and we were having a deacon election, and I was elected at that time as part of the ministerial in Presbyterian. And so that just got me in deeper into involvement into the conference. So yeah, I've been part of that since 2006. On the sideline, we've been involved very heavily with doing music ministries and also doing ministries at some of our local reserves, native reserves out here. And so we've been very, very much involved with a lot of music ministry. We teamed up with Kenny and Millie Jackson. I have no idea if you know who I'm talking about, but we teamed up with them. They're a native couple. I think we did 5 tours with them throughout Canada and the United States. And so we've been very involved with that, and we're still involved with that. We've now that for this summer already, we've been booked for every month of the summer, like from June, July, to August, and September, that we have a weekend that we're booked to go do different music ministries. So we're also very involved with that.
Wow. That's excellent, guys. That's I think it's Tolkien who talks about the love of Jesus being a bomb that goes off in people's lives, and it's a catastrophe, but a good catastrophe, and there's no good word for that. I just want to get a feel for your churches and the types of communities that they are in, and what distinguishes your congregations from those of us who are nearly 2,000 kilometers away. How big are Presbyterian and Fort St. John?
Presbyterian, if we took, I don't know how many square miles we'd have to take in consideration, but a considerable area, and we're looking at about 800 to 1,000 people, probably.
Okay.
Roughly.
And Fort St. John is, I think we're between 18 and 20,000, depending on what numbers you look at. So
Presbyterian's a little smaller than I thought, and Fort St. John's a little bigger than I thought. Okay. Would you be willing to tell me what programs you are running that are the most exciting to you, and why have you seen success with those particular programs?
So we run the Awana program, and this is success that I've seen in that is huge, because we also run a baptism class for those that later on, and I've just noticed that those that have been through the Awana program have a way better grasp of the Bible and the knowledge, and just it makes a huge difference, and I've definitely noticed that. And we have a huge Sunday school program in our church. So our church has a lot of young people. We're average attendance is probably 170 to 200 at the peaks, and we have a lot of young folks in our church, a lot of babies, and so we have a very young congregation. And so our Sunday school program is huge as well.
Okay. Wow. And is your community in general filled with lots of young kids, or is that just your church?
No, that's a general.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess I've been here for 2.5 years, and the bulk of that has been during COVID. So a lot of our programs and stuff have been kind of up in the air. But our midweek kids ministry is something that we're very excited about. We had done the Awana program for a number of years, and it was very, very successul. But as we started to look at it, what we were realizing is that we had about between 45 and 50 families that were coming to our Awana program. And we had only about 8 of those families from our own church, and about 6 non-church families. The rest of them were coming from other churches in the community. And we had our midweek children's ministry director had started seeing some of these things, and had a real turn of heart towards the people in our community right around the church. We're in a residential neighborhood in a corner of Fort St. John, and our church is adjacent to a school building, and we just wanted to change our focus a little bit for our children's ministry, and really make a sincere effort to reach out into our community. And looking at the Awana program, one of the things that we realized is that it was much more heavily geared towards church families, even though there was an outreach component to it. And so we have plans in place to make some adjustments, reaching out into the community a lot more with a little bit more of a tweaked program, in hopes that by taking the gospel and reaching kids with the gospel of Christ, that we'll see fruits there, and they'll take it into homes, and we'll be able to build relationships with people in our corner of Fort St. John, and we're hoping that other churches throughout the city will be burdened to do the same thing, and impact the immediate neighborhood around them. So that's one thing that we're really looking forward to in the fall. Once again, just with things being opened up, and just kind of a renewed sense of impacting our immediate community right around us.
Wow. I'm glad that those types of ministries are both seem to be similar ministries. One is Awana, and one is, I don't want to say knockoff Awana, but more of an outreach focused Awana.
So we also run a good youth program in our church as well.
Okay.
In our community, there isn't a lot for the youth to do. So the youth program is a very, very vital and important part of the church.
So I know that programs do not define a church, and I appreciate that. I appreciated what you guys shared about the programs that you're running, but their success is usually based around the characteristics and the culture of a town or community. There's unwritten expectations of people in that community, and there's for instance, with Presbytu, if there's lots of young kids, then a young kids ministry is going to be successful. And I'm glad that Awana has helped shape your young people into people that understand their Bibles better. Now, I want to get into your experience as part of a larger conference, as part of the CMC. I know that you two have both been personally very connected to the conference, and you both have made a huge effort to be in Manitoba for delegate meetings. I have recognized that both of you have done a lot in that regard, but that's not the case for everyone. And it can't be the case for everyone in your churches. So I think that there could be a feeling that this is a impossible battle to win. People will never feel the full benefit of being in the conference when you feel like you're always the two churches outside of the general space or sphere of the conference. And so I acknowledge that could feel like a struggle. Would you be able to put into words what it has been like for you in your experience to be part of the conference that feels so far away?
I know for me that when I first started, a couple of initiatives shortly within a number of months after I started, that the CMC was able to make was just the monthly CMC ministerial meetings with the ministerial pastors and deacons from the other churches. They were able to start live streaming those, and allowing us to be involved in those things. And for me, things like that, being able to connect with the other pastors and deacons from the other churches, it's a huge encouragement to me. It's nice to kind of know some of the things that are going on in other churches as we talk about some different things, struggles that we have in common, that our congregations are experiencing. And so just there's, to me, having those connections that the technology has been able to bring is a huge blessing to me. The opportunity to come down to Manitoba, be part of the ministerial convention in the fall, and the delegate meetings in the spring. Again, even more so, just to be able to rub shoulders and sit down with somebody at coffee during a break or something, and it's those experiences are just hugely encouraging for me. And I try to bring some of that excitement, that enthusiasm back into our congregation, just by relating to them, some of the things that I found encouraging, and just some of the experiences that I had, and especially the last just being in Manitoba a couple weeks ago for the delegate meetings. Again, just wanting to bring that excitement back, just in different things that are going on in different CMC ministries. One thing that we would like to do is bring some guys from Manitoba up here for a weekend and have a mini North conference weekend, and it puts what we do as churches into a larger context of what we can do as a conference. When we see that the gifts, the missionary support gifts that we give to the conference, and being able to get reports back on those ministries, it's far beyond what any one church is able to do. But as a conference, we're able to be a conference that puts a huge value in missions, and so to be able to take things like that and know that we're part of something that's bigger, even though we are 2,000 miles away, we're still feel a part of that. So as far as myself personally being involved, being able to be encouraged and challenged by other pastors in the conference, by our monthly meetings, by our pastor lunches, by our delegate and convention meetings, is just a huge value for being part of a conference to me. So
Very good. That was all very positive. How about for yourself, Joe?
For myself too, it's been a huge encouragement for me, especially the last few years now, where we've been struggling a little bit with as a church and with leadership, and having the executive to come alongside and help out, and to be able to share the load. And if it hadn't been for that, I don't know where the church would be at now. It would probably be upside down by now. But it's been just a huge encouragement for us, and it's been, we're miles apart, 2,000 miles apart. Yet with the technology nowadays, we have the Zoom. We can do these meetings, and it's made a huge difference in how we've been able to connect. I think we've become a lot closer through this. When I first started being on the missions board, it was just telephone conversations, and that was so hard because you'd never see the faces, and it was just really hard to connect. With the Zoom, it's a lot easier when you can actually see the faces, see expressions, and it's just made it a lot easier. Even though we are that distance, it's not the same, and we've echoed that. It's always better to be there in person, but it's a big step already to have.
Yeah, and that's something that again is huge. Like we because of the technology that we're utilizing at this point, like Joe said, to be able to be involved in some of the boards and committees on the CMC. So in our congregation, I'm involved in the board of publication and education. We have a member in our congregation who's part of the missions committee and zooms in to their monthly meetings. We have Darren Peterson from our congregation who's on the board of trustees, and so again, this as much as we have mixed emotions with technology, it does some good things in allowing us to be able to be feel like we're a bigger part and more connected to a conference. Even doesn't matter where we are. So
in a lot of ways, it's been Zoom or programs like Zoom that have allowed you to feel more connected, because I feel like even prior to Zoom being a thing, I feel like the conference has been more intentional in the past 3 years or so, and Joe can correct me on that timeline, but I think it's roughly, I've noticed a deeper desire to connect with the BC churches and send out more invitations and have funding available for gas money at times. Like, I know that's it's a small drop in the bucket, and it's more the time commitment when it comes to traveling that makes that trip difficult. It's not necessarily the fuel, but that price is going up too. But I sometimes fear that we as ministerial love the connection between the churches, because as ministerial, we can kind of feel like we don't get church when we're at church because we're working, or this is the ministry that we're involved in. So my fear is that because we feel like there's such a great benefit for us, we force our congregations to put in this effort, getting to know people, building these exterior connections. And I fear that effort is almost needless. And yet I don't want that connection to stop. I want it to improve. I want to know the other churches more. So do you guys have any thoughts on that? Is that connection useless for people in our churches?
Yeah, personally, I don't think so. And I agree with the comment that you made, that I think we can be blessed by developing that even deeper. And for example, one of the things that we're moving towards from the Board of Publication and Education is connecting churches even more than we do now by sending out prayer requests featuring one church from our conference or one of our conference boards or ministries to all of our churches every week, so that they're able to put in their bulletins or in their announcement loops, pray for this CMC church, and note a couple praise items and a couple prayer requests, and being able to connect each other in as congregations more. We've seen blessings from this as the Board of Missions has initiated this with some of our missionaries, and the mission videos that Clint has put out, and we've understood that by having video clippets from some of these missionaries, we get introduced to them, or we get to know them a little bit more, and we can share again. It helps us know how to pray with them, and some of the things that they're concerned about, or some of the blessings that they've been experiencing in their ministries. I think from the point of view of looking at what we've, from ministerial members, the blessings that we experience from the connections that we have, I think that part of that, those connections should be really embraced and encouraged by our congregations as well, because I think they contribute to the health of our own ministry. I think just being able to connect as pastors or deacons in these ways every month or throughout the year, a couple times a month, whatever it may be, we were able to encourage one another. We know that in ministry we all face challenges, and so we're able to share some of those challenges. We're able to pray together. So and all of these things that we do that the congregations might not feel is a direct blessing to them or direct benefit. Even if they don't see those things as direct benefits, they should see them as benefiting the ministry in the church, because it's blessing and benefiting the ministry of the pastor or the deacon. So in that regard, I think even if outside of the blessing that it is for people in our congregations to connect with each other, for at least the pastors to be able to do that has great benefits to the church in general.
That's a really good point. The secondhand benefit of the ministers being blessed by that community and that connection is a very real thing. Do you have anything to add to that, Joe?
I just feel too that we need to as a conference work together. The more connected we can be with one another as churches, I think the better off we are, the stronger we become. That's one thing I have to reiterate, is the COVID has forced us to use some of this technology, and in a sense, I think there's really some good benefits that have come from that. You were mentioning that there's clips of the missions that we support, probably would have never, those faces may never have been seen by a lot of our congregation, but through that they do, and it's good. And so I feel that we need to get even work closer together as churches, and I think we need to make an effort to do that. We've been talking about since Stan and Sheila were out in Presbyterian the last time, they kind of sparked maybe something that I'm hoping will actually come true, is having a busload of us, our congregation, go there, do the baseball thing in August. And so I'm hoping that, not sure if that will actually happen, but that would be just, I think, really special, just to see some of our people and see them connect with other churches. I think that would be.
I heard Stan was riling up some people in your congregation.
It was good.
Yes, he did so with much fear and trembling. They're afraid of seeing that trophy leave southern Manitoba.
But I just see such a benefit in working together. And I think the last few years have been made a little difficult with the COVID, but I hope now that is kind of in the past. I'm praying that it is, and we can even here in northern BC, that we can, as two churches, we can do more stuff together and work together better.
And you guys are roughly, your churches are 2 hours apart?
No,
Closer?
but an hour.
Okay. Well, so then you guys don't think that we've reached that optimal point of connection where it's beneficial, but not costing us too much effort, or it's not too much work at this point. So then what would be a good way to improve that connection between Manitoba and BC, and to make the conference a more unified space? Because I agree that unity in the conference challenges us, it tests us, it forces us to be more centered in truth, I think, because somebody will see something one way and somebody will see it the opposite way, and you can use that tension to find some balance of truth. So do you guys have any suggestions? I know Dwayne shared that idea of having highlighted churches and ministries, and I think that's a great way for us to be more cognizant of the other congregations. Do any other ideas come to mind?
Yeah, I think just starting to move forward on some of these things, and again, you take the example of the missions board and the videos that they're sending out every month. What we're wanting to do with prayer and praise, featuring one of our church conferences or one of our church ministries every month. It's really highlighting and focusing on those things that we have in common as member churches in a conference, and when we're in that we're in pulling together for. And the story was told of a driver who had gone along a country road and run off the road and gone into the ditch and got stuck. And he walked down the road a little ways and talked to the farmer to see if he could help him out. And he only had the only piece of equipment he had was an old mule, and the mule was blind. And so the farmer brought the mule out and hooked onto the car, and he said, "Come on, Joe, come on, Henry." And the mule pulled the car out of the vehicle, or the car out of the ditch. And the guy talked to the farmer after, and he said, why did you call out the two names when you only have the one mule? And he said, the mule pulls a lot better if he thinks he's working alongside somebody else. And when we work together and can focus on those things that we have in common and that we're working together for, whether it be for our missionaries or for our radio board or whatever it may be, I think those things are the things that we draw in common and encourage and benefit our churches when we realize that we're in this together. So,
yeah, and I think that's part of what made COVID so tiring for a lot of people, is they are trying to keep doing ministry, but even though in your head you know other people are working with you, but when you can't see them regularly, you can't share those burdens that that you might not share over a phone call. It's just something that it's slightly more important than small talk sort of stuff. But those sorts of connections, like you said, it's just knowing somebody's working beside you. Is there a way that we know we've made it, so to speak? Like I think that this is something that will constantly take work. It's not something that once we finally achieve it, then we can just coast. I think it's something that we always have to be deliberate about. But I think what would you like to see happen as far as connections, like, and maybe I'm putting this in poor words, and maybe there isn't anything in particular that you can look at and think, now we have a really solid connection. But is there anything that you'd still like to see as far as the connection between the churches? Something change or shift yet a little bit?
From my perspective, I think we're taking steps in the right direction, and so for me, just kind of following on those things and getting them implemented and doing them well, and continuing to improve on them. So things like even what we're doing now with these CMC conversations, to keep working at them and figuring out if how we can best utilize them to serve the conference. So yeah, it's just kind of taking what we're doing now and some of the vision that we have for the immediate future, and working with those and seeing what voids they fill, and then taking a step back, and after we've got these things underway and going, and seeing what, if there are other voids that we feel that we can move into and continue to benefit the conference. But yeah, again, I think some of the things that we're already doing, we can just keep working on them and get them instilled in part of our conference culture, and keep building from there. So, but again, what I've seen in the past 2.5 years, from when I first came to where we are now, relative to some organizations, and again, this has kind of been nurtured by what's happened with the COVID restrictions and so on. But I think we've taken huge strides to do things that can bring our conference ministerial together, and our congregations, and some of the ministries that we do together. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I think we've made, doing and saying, big strides in improving. I don't think we should let up. I think we should need to keep the pedals down and keep going at it, and not let up on that.
Yeah. And I think too, Alexander, that we sit here as those who are involved in the ministerial, as other people listen to what we're talking about here. I think we're always looking for ideas and input from people in our congregations. What do you see as benefits to being in the conference, and are there things that we could be doing that would be helpful to build those connections within our congregation? So if anybody has ideas, we want to hear about those too. So
I think that has happened to an extent, or as people have seen the missionaries that we're involved with and seeing the different things, there has definitely been a bit. For me personally, I think in our congregation, I've seen there's a better understanding what the conference as a whole means, and I think I think we've made big strides in that way. We just need to keep pushing at it.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's something important about being invited to see what somebody is doing. So seeing the missionaries, seeing video clips of the different churches, I think that those things are very beneficial for people to grasp what's going on. I remember when missionaries start to show up in churches with PowerPoints and to actually go through slides of the ministries that they are doing, that was hugely encouraging. And now now we're able to talk in videos, and we're able to actually see live connections with people quite easily, quite conveniently. And that's been an encouragement for me. I've been encouraged by Dwayne being on the publication education committee. I think we joined at the same meeting, but being able to have those meetings on Zoom is so it's so beneficial, because you have a different perspective and you bring different ideas to the table, which we would otherwise miss. Is there anything else that you guys want to add to this conversation?
Yeah, I just I don't know if I can kind of emphasize it enough, but just how encouraging even things like our conversation today are, just to be able to be part of the conference, even though we're so far apart. This technology has really cut down some of the gaps and stuff, and yeah, it's a blessing. So thank you for doing this, Alexander.
Yes, same. Thank you
Absolutely.
for the effort putting into it.
Well, thank you guys for being here. It's a privilege to be able to talk to you. And like you said, this is a lot easier than getting on a plane and setting up in your office.